All right. So we are rapidly approaching St. Patrick's Day and everything that goes with that, Irish Heritage Month here in Newport. And on this week's edition of the Newport This Week podcast, we welcome Mike Slein to kind of break down some of this really essential history when it comes to Newport. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Bill, and welcome to March Irish Heritage Month in Newport. I am Mike Slein. I'm the past president of the Museum of Newport Irish History, and I'm welcoming you on behalf of Deanna Conheeney, the current president. It's a great month for us at the museum. It's the Museum of Newport Irish History, and I emphasize that because we have a narrow mission, and that is to depict the history of the Irish emigration out of Ireland into Newport and Newport County and their contributions in building our great city here. It's a great story. Their contributions were immense. They weren't alone. There were obvious people of other ethnic backgrounds. But at one point in the 1800s, they comprised nearly 50% of the population of Newport. So it is very significant. I might mention, Bill, first of all, that we have many events that the museum is hosting this month, and I'll just give a little blurb on those events. We have an Irish trolley tour on the 18th of the month at 10 a.m. and 12:30, departing from Hibernian Hall. You can go on the Museum of Newport Irish History website and reserve seats. They're going fast. The reason they're going fast is that it's free to the public, courtesy of Viking Tours of Newport and in memory of Karen Oakley, who was one of the principal owners. They've been donating this tour now for about 10 years in Newport. So again, 2 tours on the 18th. The Interpretive Center on 648 Thames Street is now open Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 12 to 4 throughout the month of March, starting today. We have Barney Street Cemetery tours being conducted on March 19th at 12:30, as well as a tour of St. Mary's Cemetery on Sunday, March 26th, 12:30 p.m. by Steve Marino, a really fascinating docent and tour guide. So I hope that some of you can take advantage of some of these events. We close out on the 29th of the month with a lecture. I am going to give a lecture on the walking tours of Irish Newport. And then on the 26th, 3 days prior to that, the enactment of the Dancing at 40 Steps will take place at 3 p.m. on Sunday, the 26th. So those 2 events kind of close out Irish Month.
And now, pardon me, I was going to say anybody who may have missed any of that or wants to check, any additional events in this week's Newport This Week in the paper, there's a thorough breakdown of everything that's going on. So I just point listeners and viewers to that as well. I'm sorry to cut you off there. I just wanted to make sure that we announced that aggregate of events is available.
Well said, Bill. And it's also, if there's any other questions, you can go on the Museum of Newport Irish History, Google it. The website will pop up and all the events for March are listed on there as well. So thank you very much for that. I think a little background is probably helpful when we say the Irish contribution to building the city of Newport. If you go back and look at the 16 and the 1700s, Irish names started to appear, marriages started to appear at Trinity Anglican Church, which actually were opened in 1729. In 1828, we had our first Catholic parish up at Barney Street, and that's also the site of the first Irish cemetery in Newport, the Barney Street Cemetery, which is really worth a look up behind the Newport Historical Society on Toro Street. We now maintain that cemetery and take good care of the grounds A beautiful little sanctuary in the middle of that neighborhood. In the 1800s, the first large group of Irish came to the island, and they were the miners, the Portsmouth coal miners that were out where Carnegie Abbey Marina Resort is now. They were here for 100 years, from 1810 to 1910, and lived in row houses in Portsmouth. Subsequent to that, in for 33 years, starting 1824 to 1857, were the 400 Irish that built Fort Adams, which at the time was one of three largest construction projects in the United States.
Wow.
Again, brought to you by the Irish. They were the coastal defense forts that were put up by the Monroe administration after the War of 1812 to make sure that the British did not return. In the 1900s, we had the nearly 2,000 Irish workers that lived basically or mainly at that time down in the Fifth Ward that worked at the mansions, the cottages up on Bellevue Avenue. So when you look at the entire history of the Irish, they were very much principals in building the fabric of Newport society. And those were only a handful. They were the canal diggers that dug the Blackstone Canal between Providence and Worcester. They were the transcontinental railway builders from the East Coast to Promontory Point, Utah. A significant amount were Irish after finishing the canals, transitioned to building the railroads. They manned the textile mills right on their very own Thames Street. Not a pretty picture. It was servile labor, many women working long hours. 4 mills were here in the 1800s. 2 still exist. The very first building on Thames Street, the Perry Mill, is now the Bay Colony Club and stores, etc. And then the International Yacht Restoration Society Mill was also one of those textile mills that the Irish contributed so much to the fabric of Newport society.
So in a nutshell, when you think of Newport, think of the Irish, put it that way.
Think of the Irish. They were obviously, I don't want to slight any other ethnic backgrounds, but it was there was a time when they comprised, as I mentioned earlier, about 50% of the population here. So it was very significant.
What's your take on, obviously with Heritage Month and the Irish History Museum, there's a thorough and very forward-facing reminder of this history. Do you feel like, in terms of even at the educational level in elementary, middle, and high schools, and in general, do you feel like these stories are passed down, not just in the context of the niche month of March or around St. Patrick's Day, but is there a satisfactory amount of education on Irish history, in your opinion, in just day-to-day life right now, especially in Newport?
There is. As a matter of fact, very good point. If you look at Rogers High School, there is a teacher there, Mr. Steve Ferris, that does a significant amount of Irish projects and teaching Irish history at Rogers High School. If you look at Hibernian Hall at the corner of Thames Street and Wellington Avenue, they are now the largest Hibernian organization in the entire country. I was told last week that they just eclipsed one of the large organizations in New York City. And they have more than 700 members now that are very active in the Ancient Order of Hibernians, which is a fraternal organization for Christian Catholic fraternal unity and charitable foundation work. And it's located right in the heart of the Fifth Ward, which was where the Irish moved to from Kerry Hill, here close to where I'm sitting, across from City Hall, as they moved over time into the Fifth Ward down Thames Street. So it's Irish neighborhoods. A lot of families participate at the Ancient Order of Hibernians. And again, they're living that in the schools here as well.
Last question here, is Irish history used when we think of Newport? We can't help but think of tourism angles. And we think about all of the events, we think about sailing, we think about just general history. Is Irish history a part of that cultural, money making, let's be honest, economic institution that Newport really is, and drives a lot of our local economy?
Yeah, really good point. It's obviously a huge draw to bring all these people in for the St. Patrick's Day parade and all these other events that surround the parade. There was a very large effort by Dennis Sullivan and his group that produced the parade, an independent, separate organization, to downplay just the revelry and the rowdyism of the parade and get into more of the history, the culture, the music, and the people. So I think they've done an excellent job there of bringing the total focus into Newport for the entire month of March, starting at the beginning and going right through the 29th.
Mike Slein, it's time. We're gearing up for the St. Patrick's Day, and more than anything, like you said, just the entire month. It's a spectacular occasion here in Newport, and appreciate your time very much.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, Bill.